If you invest in Bursa Malaysia, in the stock market, do you pay any tax, capital gains tax? You don't, right? So whatever profit you make, zero tax. Yeah? That's the ultimate. And that's how I plan my career. Eventually I want to become just an investor. But before I become an investor, I have to go through the grind. I have to become an employee, and if I'm lucky, I can become a partner of a firm, and then I go and manage a big company, and then eventually I become an investor myself. And how do you get there? Passion. You have got to have passion. I found my passion in property. And if anybody offers me a job outside of property, or an opportunity outside of the property industry, I might not want to go there. I just want to remain in property. And for all of you, you've got to find your passion. You might not find your passion now, but as you grow through your career, the first 3 years of your career, try to find your passion. You know why? Because with passion, you become good at what you do. And when you become good at what you do, that is when you become a good business partner to the company, to your CEO, to the shareholders. You can't become a good business partner if you do not have interest in what you do. So find your interest, be it plantation, be it fisheries, be it manufacturing, be it property development, but find your passion. The accounting knowledge that you have, the skills that you have, is just technicalities. But what's more important is your passion in the business and your ability to make a difference in the business. Right. Now, let's go to the more mundane side of what's my role of a CFO. The role of a CFO is similar to the role of a CEO. If the CEO leaves, then the CFO takes over temporarily. It's just like a deputy CEO. In terms of the functionality, I cover all of the corporate function, accounting, strategic planning, risk management, legal, and all this corporate stuff. But what's more important is not the technical functionality. What's more important is the ability to inspire, the ability to lead, the ability to communicate the company's vision. That's what's important. It keeps you wondering, right? What have I been prepared with to go through that? You won't get it from books. You will get it from your heart. Go into your heart, find your passion, and that's where you'll find what you need to become a good business partner. Passion, and that's where you find what you need to become a good business partner.
Thank you so much, Wan Hassan. So he says, don't pay tax. Be passionate and be inspiration in whatever you do. No, I'm just kidding. He has to make sure.
Do it within the law.
Within the law. Caveat. Now I'm going to go into very dangerous territory. This man can be very dangerous as well. I'm going to go into very dangerous territory. I'm going to talk to Encik Ahmad Feroz about Generation Y. Wondering who Generation Y are here? How many of you are Generation Y? Oh. What advice would you give Generation Y from an employability perspective? Just a direct question, and then I'm going to walk with the cordless mic and I'm going to come to y'all because it's your time. Remember our contract? Yeah.
Differentiate yourself. Pick the best of the previous generation and make a difference. Because all of you will function or behave the same way. Okay? So you've got to differentiate yourself. Not everything that is from the past generation doesn't work. But to differentiate among yourself, you've got to pick the good values of the previous generation. Or what's before, because it's been tested. Okay? For example, how many of you actually have accountancy as choice number one when you applied for higher education? just about all. You're lucky. There are a lot of your friends who did not get what they asked for. Because the computer tells them which major to take. And you are of a generation that you have got to do what you want to do. I'll share with you an example. In the early days of your ITM, or ITM then, if anybody is to pick diploma in photography, we were all like, why diploma photography? But you know what? In current times, that person makes more money than me. Because he likes that so much. He opens up his closet. This is my $20,000 lens. Because you succeed in what you want to do. But then again, while you succeed in what you want to do, you must remember that you do not work in silos. You work in a team. You may pick majors that you don't like to begin with. But your adaptability, your ability to communicate with the people around you makes the difference, makes you successful. In fact, I was just looking at my phone because yesterday there was an article by this person by the name of Friedman, and he was saying, it doesn't matter which school you go to, whether you go to Harvard, you go to ITM or whatever, it's how you got your education and what you make out of it. Okay? If you just go for the exercise of just passing the exams, and let me tell you this, you're all mostly into it just to pass exams. Which is why it makes it challenging when you start moving into the professional examination. I've got quite a number that part of my white hair comes from them. While they have degrees, but they are not progressing as fast as they should because they come with the mindset of, I think I know, rather than learning. And they come with the mindset that they think they're still preparing themselves academically. Because when you go up and take professional examinations, that's not the way anymore. Resilience, perseverance needs to happen. So progression has been very tough with at least, I think I've got 40 over accountant trainees, either ACCA or CIMA or whatever it is. You've got to change your mindset because you've got to differentiate yourself. Because a bachelor's of accountancy, like I said earlier, I can also make you a cadet planter. I have a very successful assistant manager as a cadet planter, but his degree is in mechanical engineering, and I've got one in statistics. So that's why I'm saying you've got to differentiate yourself. But if you don't set in your mind, begin with the end in mind, first things first, and you want to be successful, get through your professional certification, get through your CIMA as soon as possible, you're going to be bogged down with other things, and you will never be successful. And then you just stay the same. Because we are all caught up with this. Parents go around and say, my daughter is an accountant. Your daughter is only a holder of bachelor's in accountancy, not a chartered accountant. So a bachelor's degree is the same. Anyway, unless you differentiate yourself. That's all the reason, I think, because in the program here, you have an early start off, right?
They have an option.
They have an option. You have an early start off, you've got to make it happen. Or else you'll be losing out. Okay? So Gen Y, you've got to make sure that you are ahead. You must make that commitment and be very passionate about it. Anybody who's passionate in what they do and they have the discipline for it, they will get through well. Okay?
So be different, be passionate, inspire, and while I walk around, put your heads down because I'm going to come up to you. This panel is going to help me identify if no questions come from the floor, they're going to point towards a person and I'm going to go and ask that person for questions. Alright? So anybody who has a question that you would like to ask the panelists, put your hand up. Or your leg. Oh, this gentleman. Wow. In a sea filled with women, there are only few gentlemen here I can hear here. Why, you had to be different. Huh? What's your name?
My name is Arif.
And who do you want to ask the question to, or generally to all?
Jaslan.
Hassan, there you go.
Okay, Cik Aslan. From a business perspective, what is the most important thing when you do branding? What are the do's and the don'ts?
Do what? Branding or planning?
Branding a product.
Branding.
Branding a product or a company. So what is the most important thing that you must do?
Okay, firstly, you've got to ensure that the brand sells. Number two, you've got to think of protection. Yep, protection. Legal protection, intellectual property protection. So you've heard about trademarks, service marks, patents, and all that. But in Malaysia, you've got to be very practical. Having legal protection is one thing, but enforcement is another matter. So you've got to think of strategies of how to protect your brand, even though there might be some challenges in terms of enforcement. Yep. So I think you've heard of strategies taken by Coca-Cola, for example, KFC, for example, where they went for trade secrecy instead of going for intellectual property protection. So that's one way for them to protect their intellectual property and hence their brand. And those are the two most important things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Answer your question?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Anybody else who have questions? Yes, that lady over there. I'll bring the mic. I have to do some exercise once in a while as well. We sit in the office every day. Where are you? Ooh. I purposely did that to see whether you're working.
Again, my name is Bahira, and my question is for...
You have a fan club.
Alright, my question is for Mr. Haslan, because you said...
Oh, popular man today.
Because you
Alhamdulillah.
because you said before your passion is in property, right? So, what is your advice for us at our young age if we would like to invest in property or anything else? Because we were like fresh graduates, so is there any way that we can like directly invest or in something or no? Because property is one thing nowadays. So, is there any way for us as a young graduates? Thank you.
Yeah, there is. He'll charge 100 ringgits per question.
Am I allowed to answer that? Okay. First of all, when you go out and work, have a very, very, very frugal attitude. Don't go for cars, go for public transport and save your money from there. Use your salary slip as your asset. Yep. You've got to understand the concept of assets and liabilities. What's an asset? Anybody can give me the answer? Any suggestion?
Nodding your head is inadequate. You got to speak out.
Assets and liabilities, that's the staple of accountants. What's an asset? Exactly. That means something that gives me money. What's a liability? Alright, okay, now I ask you. If you go out and purchase a car, is that an asset or a liability? Why is it a liability? Right. If you go and purchase a low-cost flat, is that an asset or a liability? Why is it an asset? Okay, the answer is not entirely correct. If you buy a low-cost flat and stays in it, it's not an asset. If you buy a low-cost flat and continue to stay in your parents' house and rent out that low-cost flat and earn income from there, then it meets your definition of an asset, isn't it? Income coming in. So that's my first advice. Continue to stay in your parents' house.
I'm a bit worried about your advice, sir.
This is practical advice. Continue to stay in your parents' house and then buy property and rent it out. I'm serious. Don't buy your first property to stay. Buy your first property to rent out. And then after 3 years, your property would have increase in value, sell it, take another bank loan because by that time your salaries have also increased, and buy a more expensive property. You might buy 40,000 ringgit property at first, upgrade it to 70,000, and then later after 5 years maybe 100,000, and so on. And that's how you you develop your wealth in property investment. Now you are all accountants. Plan your future. Okay, and if you are in the property industry, if you happen to work in a property development company, imagine you're a property investor yourself. You would have read everything there is about the property industry. Imagine the kind of quality that you put into your management reports. Yeah, as opposed to you not being immersed in the industry itself. So if you're interested in property, try to go and work in a property company. Apart from being a good storyteller for your management reports, you may also get staff discount for the houses that you buy.
In the meantime, do not forget to also leave your parents' house, get married, have children. That should not be also forgotten in the whole process. You've got to get out of your parents' house at some point. Alright, moving away from branding and investment-free advice and sticking to the theme of bridging the employability gap, any other questions you have? Yes, that lady has raised her hand. You all are making me work. Are you all doing this on purpose, doing that? Next question. Yeah, sure.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. I'm Nabila. I have a question for Encik Ahmad Khairuz. Okay, as you are going to graduate very soon and going to venture into jobs later on, what in the employer's perspective, what is your expectation from us fresh graduates? Because we have no experience, no job experience, and how do we actually bridging the gap between our expectation and the employer's expectations? That's my question.
That was the best question even out of all the questions I've asked. I want each of the panelists to answer that. Would that be good?
Okay. Right.
Yeah, so starting with you, I want to go through everyone.
Okay, remember first, you already identified there is a gap, right? Because those sitting on the other side could probably well be easily a Gen X. There is already a gap, okay? So you've got to make sure that you have in mind that you're going to face somebody who is going to speak a different language. So we have our set of values. Today we have people coming to interviews wearing dangry, but they wear a shirt and a tie. It doesn't work. Because we are sitting across and we are dressed up. One, right? Today even parents that you come into interviews, for example, your hair, you don't cut your hair. There is a gap already. Now you just imagine when you come and face us, you don't even speak or communicate well. Where does it put you? Right? So you are in an era that you should be able, like I mentioned earlier, you must do your homework before you come for the interview. We all know very well you don't have experience. But how you communicate and how you articulate and how are you so well diverse in terms of your knowledge and background tells us whether you have an eagerness and motivation to want to do something. Better. It is not about what's the problem. It's about how do we do it better. For example, in human capital development at FGV, we have this thing about we do training, but not for the sake of doing training. We want to make sure there is a change in behavior towards a positive business impact. So it's just not about doing it and okay, that's done. But it's making sure that you are able to do it differently. So my challenge to the accountant trainees always is that when they come in and say, prepare yourself to walk into the boardroom with the CEO and expect the CEO to turn the table to you and say, please explain my financials. Not the CEO explaining. You must be able to stand up and be able to articulate and speak through in layman's terms about what those numbers mean, because half of the board members are not accountants. You see? But if you are not able to do that, it's equal to, sorry, I'm going to use this example. Just imagine you have a PhD in front of you in class teaching, and you have no sense what the person has said. To me, that's a failure. Because a PhD do two things in my eyes. One is to write the books. Two, to make sure they can share the knowledge that you are able to pick it up and make good use of it and apply. But if you have no sense what he's saying, you still cannot pass your exam, you cannot apply it. And remember, university prepares you to start work. But in the job, we on the training side, for example, have to prepare you to perform. Totally different things.
I'm going to go to Yasmin for this, because we have an age-old saying, when people come for interviews for us, or any organization, we look for two things, skills and attitude. We always recruit on attitude, because you can train on skills, but you can't train people on attitude. One additional question to what that excellent question that was posed by that lady is, when you realized you had a gap, I'm sure you don't look like someone you had a gap, but when you realized if you had a gap, what did you do that was different and extra? That will help them as well.
Okay. To add to what Cik Faraz was sharing just now, and again, very good question. Let's be realistic, we are all human, and therefore we are imperfect. Cik Asa was just sharing, when he started his accounting, he was not strong in his technical, but he developed the skill in storytelling. So the reality is, none of us in this room or in this world is a perfect human being. So therefore, we must continue to learn. Like I've shared in the beginning, the day you stop learning is the day you die. So now we know that we have a gap, and it's a chicken and egg issue. You go to the company and say, no, I don't have experience. Of course, I've just graduated. Of course, I don't have experience. And the employer say, oh, I need people with experience. So there's always this chicken and egg issue. So what do? Number one is coming back to the same point that Jasam was sharing. It's about passion. For me, it's that passion, that desire to learn. You don't kill your desire to learn in university. You don't kill that. Keep your passion to learn to your last breath. Continue to learn. Yeah? And learning is not just in the classroom. It's everywhere, anywhere. Some tips for all of you here who are still learning, who are still in this university. How many of you here, show me your hands, are involved in associations or in projects or in, all these societies? Show a hand. How many of you here are committee members or president or secretaries or, holding some posts? See, I can already tell from here who has leadership skill, who does not have. Because if you keep yourself with your, books in the library and not communicating to people today, how on earth are you going to communicate with people when you go into job place? When you join a company, no matter how big or small? Those people, congratulations, those of you who are already involved in societies, organizations, projects, etc. Brilliant, because not only they are developing your IQ, but you are also developing your emotional intelligence, and to a certain extent, your spiritual intelligence. We need to balance all these three. So tips number 2, use the opportunity now, today, to develop those skills. Don't wait until you meet Encik Ahmad Faraz later for you to develop that skill. You have that chance to do it now. Yesterday, just to share a bit, I was with my daughter doing UPSR, and as you know, that's a leakage in question, a big integrity issue. I was working at the school, and that yesterday, I think it was a uniform day. So students came in their, bulan sabit merah, uniform, their cadet uniform, all various uniforms. Interestingly, I see these students, they came to school with long sour face. Can you imagine the energy? They're kind of being forced to go to school, then they're being forced to wear all these uniforms to participate, to learn. It's because you don't understand the meaning, you don't see the impact, you only see what's in it for me now. If you understand the meaning by participating in all these associations or these, these projects, etc., you're actually developing skills which would help you later. So, coming back to point number 2. Point number 3, find a mentor. Remember, none of us are perfect. Even the greatest leader have mentors. I have mentors around the world because I was working in a multinational company, so I have mentors from various countries, including Scotland. So find a mentor. You are lucky because you have people like Venkat Marini who really cares for you. So those are I can give you more, but it will take time. So let me just stop here. My point is, it goes back to ASK, attitude, skill, knowledge. Skill and knowledge you can develop, but A is your responsibility, is attitude. If you do not have the desire, your proactiveness, your desire to learn, to change, then just sit in one corner and die. I'm sorry, I'm being very sharp because I love and I care all of, I really want to see all of you to be successful.
All right, Marini just points to me saying 5 more minutes. Can we have 5 more minutes? We launched this report on Monday. I keep saying Tuesday. On Monday. And we had the head of HP, Global Shared Services, seated with us. And he said, when he looks for an interview during semester, when he looks at an interview, new graduates coming out, he asked the question, what did you do during semester breaks? Everybody said, go back home and lepa. See, I told you I'm 99.99% Malaysian. And he said, when he finds a story who says, oh, I went to McDonald's. Why? Not for the money. I just wanted to know what the experience was. I don't want to stay at home. I work there. He would take a person like that. Why? You work in a team. You know what customer service is. You also are exposed to leadership skills. You don't need to go through an organization structure, training program to understand those things. You don't need to. What his example was, we can learn it in small things that we do, like what Manhastan said, bring that story out in an interview. Can I tell you the story about how my 3 months at McDonald's were? I didn't bring you any burger, but I'm going to tell you a story. You immediately capture that person's attention. This is what I did. There was a situation with a customer. The customer was not happy. There was no chicken in the burger. It was just a patty and some lettuce. But this is what I did. My team had a difficulty. 2 of the people were sick. I decided to do this. That story, that experience you have is amazing. Peter. Anything you want to add on to that first?
No, there's actually very little that I would add to what was said there. But going back to the question, it sounded like there's a degree of nervousness that you've done your degree programme and then you're moving into the world of employment. And bridging the gap was one thing you mentioned about the experience. You don't have experience in a role. I think the one thing that I would say in that is you're looking at employers who are recruiting graduates. And they therefore know that these graduates are people who haven't got 2 or 3 years working in a finance role, dealing with customers, dealing with managers. So you shouldn't be cautious about that lack of finance directly relevant experience being exposed. And then just to reiterate some of the ideas that have been mentioned already, you have a job role described to you that you're applying for. That's got the proficiencies that the employer expects of you. It may give some detail of tasks that you're expected to do. So you put your research skills to good effect by finding out about that company. There's so much information about so many companies that's available, so through Google and through all sorts of search engines. The last time I was recruiting somebody for a job, he amazed me because I'm not particularly digitally savvy. But this guy had looked up my profile on LinkedIn and then made some link to something else and something else and started talking about me as if we'd known each other for 2 or 3 years. which was pretty impressive. Bit spooky. I thought maybe I was going to stop. But this impressed me because the guy had taken time to do some research. He hadn't worked in accountancy education, really didn't know how to spell CIMA, couldn't tell one body from another. But very, very impressive, despite not having the experience. And the other story, my eldest son is 14, he's actually just turned 15. So we're starting to think about where are you going to work, what are we going to do? And everything that he's done to date in terms of the school activities, and like you said, the extracurriculars, he was in the Boy Scouts for ages, was a leader in the Boy Scouts, he plays in a band, and all these activities, they're being penciled down to say, well, how did you rise to this challenge? What happened when you were playing in a band and you didn't have people dancing and things like this? There's all of these experiences. They're not job experiences, but they're life experiences. And they come back, I think, to the start, the storytelling thing, saying that we've got to make something out of the information we have. The information about ourselves so far is, I've been to school, I have a few hobbies, I've been involved in these activities, and so now can I get a story out of that says this is how I will continue to develop, and I'll point at lifelong learning here, and you show thirst, you show an enthusiasm to say, when I'm in here, I've got these skills for learning that I've used so much, and I'm really anxious to learn more and more about your organisation and working with your technology and dealing with your people, such as drop a name that you've looked up and you found on LinkedIn or whatever. And just, you've got the story in there, and it really is about having that, not going in with a negative attitude and talking about what you don't know, but getting that positive attitude about what your experiences from birth to now have taught you.
Yeah. We both know one gentleman called Noel. He works with us very closely. I mean, you all have met him as well in different times. He has a son, and his son is on the PlayStation game all the time. You heard this story plenty of times, Peter. PlayStation? 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 So his son applied for a job at H&M. You know H&M? Yeah, thank God you know H&M. PlayStation, no, H&M, yes. And they asked him to give experience about his team building leadership skills. And he says, I play PlayStation, through that I have team building and leadership skills. They said, out. Mixed. But he actually wrote to them and said, come one day, come home and watch me play the game, and I will show you team building or team working and leadership skills. So they actually apparently came to his place and they sat behind him. Now, when you play PlayStation, you're not playing alone. It's a multiplayer game from different people in different countries. You have never seen their face. You don't know their language, but you're talking to them. Go over here, do that, do this, do that. Working as a team in different time zones, different countries, different culture, different language, different sexes, different people. And leadership is where he's telling them to move on. Those guys were so impressed that they said, wow, we never knew this. And that's the ability to storytell. Take something very simple and make it sound very wonderful. One last question, and that's about it. I got to end with that. Anyone? One last question. Oh, yeah, thank you. I will not trip. I will not.
Hello, I'm Nadira. I have a question, and I hope that Yasmin can answer for me first. Okay, so as we all know it, we are about to graduate soon. And then, as we graduated, we young people, we have like so much responsibilities to be done. We have our educational scholarship to be paid. We have to find ourselves a home. We have to find ourselves so many things. At some point you've got to get married or something, and then especially towards ladies. Many of us might not, cannot afford to get involved with professional careers because there are so many things that, restrict us from doing that. And what are your advices for us, to manage our life in these near years?
Very good question. I was wondering when that question was going to come, especially this room is filled with guys, right?
Yes, in fact, very good question. Like what you said, I was expecting that kind of question. So, save the best for last. You are totally right and being realistic indeed. There's a lot of things, a lot of expectations when we go out, not just from women, but also from men. You know, the men have to feed, have to feed the wife, have to find a house, you know. And as I was sharing, just stay at your mom's house. Yeah, you're lucky if your mom's house can feed your whole family, or yourself. If you have parents' house is so small, then you actually are responsible to take care of your parents. So maybe perhaps I can just share my experience and a bit of, it's not perfect, like I said from the beginning, but perhaps could inspire you. So for me, among others, number one is find a great partner. Right. Well, you can find a rich partner to begin with.
Who tells you to stay with your mother?
Yeah, or find a partner who are willing to stay with your mother. But yeah, it's I'm being realistic. This is a time where I try to look for a great partner who share the same inspiration, who share the same values. Who don't mind to live with my parents. I did that. We did that for 5 years. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm hiding behind this. I don't want to.
Yeah. And but of course, when it comes to, I'm not going to dwell into marriage, etc. Because when it comes to partners, you don't know, whether you can end up having someone who's super rich, so you don't have to work, or you end up marrying someone who's just as fresh as you are, so both equally looking for job, both equally looking for building wealth, etc. But find a good partner who share the same value and who share the same principle, who you can plan together with. Yeah, that's one. And then second, plan. Going back to plan, you girls are accountants, so do the plan your work and work your plan. But bear in mind, no matter how master mega your plan is, as a Muslim, the master planner is Allah. So there's so much you can plan, but at the end of the day, of course, you submit to Him and ask for the best. Be flexible. Yeah, there are times that things go in just like in accordance with your plan. There are not, and how do you become flexible? How do you live with those uncertainties? For example, I wanted to complete my CIMA within, I can't remember, certain X years. But then I had that opportunity to transfer to Netherlands. And over there is no tuition provider.
We know that.
Yeah. So I negotiated with my employer, and during closer to the exam, I got the chance to travel to London every weekend to do crash course. Yeah.
You sure you need me, Peter?
No. Yeah. And so every week, Friday, I leave my kids to my husband. You take care, okay? Now you become the housewife, husband, whatever. I run for the fly to London, went to the class, and then after a few days, 2 nights, came back. Yeah. So a lot of things that you need to be able to align with your partner. So of course it depends so much for who your partner is. Third is, of course, being a woman. This I want to really emphasize. You have a choice in life. Yeah. Some people are so materialistic driven that you forget about your family, about your children. There's always a choice in life, and that's where professional paper, for me, adds a lot of value. I have an option whether to work or not to work. I have an option whether to work with company A, B, C, or to run my own company, etc., etc. When you have knowledge, you have experience, you have a choice in life. So keep on learning, keep on having that desire, keep on, having this kind of, going to this kind of engagement, learn from other people's experience. Inshallah, you'll be fine.
Wonderful. Brilliant examples given, and that's exactly what she says is perseverance. You never give up. You have a dream, you go for the goal. for those who feel they want to continue a professional career and may not have the funds to do so, we, CIMA and Talent Corp, just launched an employability program, whereby if you graduate and if you want to find employment, we help you do that. And the employer and Talent Corp will pay for your professional fees, 100%. You bring in only zero. That was just launched on Monday again. I keep saying Tuesday. So whoever wants to do this is exclusively working with CIMA and Talent Corp, especially for UITM students in accounting. So the company will absorb you, Talent Corp will pay up to 7,500 ringgits, the balance 7,500 ringgits will be paid by the employer, 15,000 ringgits covered for your professional papers in CIMA. So if you want to know more, I'll dump it onto all this lady over here, Marini will give you more information, right? With that, I got to wind up because there's a small presentation Peter wants to make as well to share about competency framework. That's an interesting story you need to know because we did a research with 300 companies and they told us an interesting story. So he's going to do a bit of a storytelling later. But first, please put your warm round of, please give them a warm round of applause for all their valuable contributions. And I would ask you, please give a warm round of applause for this wonderful audience as well. And with that, I thank you, and I will pass it over to the Master of Ceremonies, who's going to say a few words. She has already scribbled.
Thank you to Mr. Barakat and all our panelists.